was radios. So radio was what I was interested in doing, so I joined, and I was the first one who had to buckle down and learn everything I could, so I could make a petty officer third class training. But it was a short course because we was trained to go on LCIs. Now LCIs is a much smaller ship. It's mostly for infantry, and we went on cruises training in the bay there. I forget what they call it, Norfolk. Just it was cold, and they had oil heaters, and it stunk. Oh, it was miserable. So I went home for Christmas and had planned to get married right then on Christmas, but they only gave me a leave for 3 or 4 days for that weekend. But he told me if I was going to be married, let him know he would give me an extension. So I decided we were going to get married, and I asked for an extension, but never got the reply back. But I took it anyway. So I got married, and went back, and everything didn't go well, because I never got the okay to take that extension. The reason I said that is because from an LCI, I was trained in Norfolk, and I was assigned to an LST, which was a much bigger ship and much, well, most of my radio men were 8 and 9 months of training, and I had 8 or 9 weeks of training. So I had a petty officer's rating, and my radio men were just seamen, and they knew more about radios than I did, but I had the age on them, I think. I was 22 at the time, and they were 18, 19, or 20. So, being assigned to an LSD, I found it tough, so I got away from it so I could get some more schooling, and I did some practicing on code, so I could receive instead of 8, 9, or 10, or 12 words per minute, so I could get it up to 28 or 32 words per minute. So after a series of a few months, I was assigned to another LSD crew, which happened to be the 133. Now, the 133 went to Boston in the spring of 1944. And we went to Boston, to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and St. John's, New Brunswick, and then we started across the ocean. And it was cold, and all of the side railings were icing up with ice, so we had to go out and chop the ice if we get too heavy with ice on it. And plus we had an LCT on top of our ship. So we had to chip ice, then we got into the waves. The waves were 100 feet high. And every time we would climb a wave, the screw, which is the propeller, would come out of the water. And when it got down and back into the water, the whole ship would vibrate like it shook you up. And every time somebody would open a latch, we call it, that's doors, you know. Every time they close a hatch, it would resonate right through the whole ship. And we thought we would get hit all the time because there were submarines, and we were way up in close to Greenland to keep away from the U-boats. Of course, we was in a big convoy, and we had the cruisers, not the cruisers, the destroyers and destroyer escorts on the outside watching for submarines. So it was quite a long trip, almost 3 or 4 weeks, almost a month, from the United States up over Ireland down in between Ireland and England. Then we arrived in Weymouth Harbour, then Plymouth Harbour, and all of the coast cities in the southern part of England, where we did a lot of maneuvering, practicing, and landings. And in between our exercises, we encountered a lot of mines. They were mining the harbors all the time, so they would sneak in with PT boats or U-boats and stuff like that. And they would find, so we was always on the alert for mines. Then came May, and we went to Southampton in England and loaded up with troops, tanks, and we unloaded our LCT when we got to England anyway. And we knew then that there was no more communication. We knew then that we was heading for the invasion. And that was the first of June. So we were supposed to get out in the 5th of June, but the weather was so bad they held it up another day. So we was traveling between England and France, which is it's about 50 or 100 miles. I don't know. It's a long ways. And we was in the convoy, and we arrived close to the beach on D-Day around 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. The first wave had already gone in at 6 o'clock. Of course, the airplanes had gone in and bombarded the coastline to make it easier for the soldiers to get in. So we got orders to head right into the red Omaha Beach, and the rough one, the tough one. So we was within a mile of the beach, and being a radio man, we had secured the radio, and I was able to watch and observe what was going on pretty well. So I was looking out of those round glass windows they have in the so long, I forget what they call these. Wheelhouse light, yeah, that's a wheelhouse. So I was watching, and I could see those 88s firing on the different boats as they were going in. And you would see, I saw one LCI get hit, and I saw one guy flying and falling in the water. And it was suicide. And within, before we got less than half a mile from the beach, a destroyer came between us and the beach, and he started pounding almost 88s that was in the cliffs over there, and pounding all of our ships as they were getting in. Then we got orders to stop and to turn back, that it was suicide, that it was impossible to get in. So we got out about within less than a mile from the beach, and we anchored right there while the fleet was all about 5 miles out. So we was all by ourselves. And the first thing I knew, a lot of the rhinos, that's platforms with well, anyway, they had propellers in them to steer the so we had 3 of those rhinos tied up alongside of us. First thing I knew, we had over 100 wounded on board ship. So I went down to where my bunk was, and there was a wounded person in there, and it was a bloody mess. We even had a German prisoner speaking French. I tried to speak in French with him. He didn't understand that. He didn't speak English. So he was German, all right. So I went back to the radio shack and just laid down in the radio shack to rest or sleep there. But before I knew it, we had about a dozen doctors on board ship, and they were having an operating room right on our ship, and they were trying to save as many as they could of our wounded that were coming back from the beach on these small boats, LCDs, and all kinds of platoons. And so it was kind of quiet until 11 o'clock. Of course, being in the north part of Europe over there, you have a very short night. The days are long. It's 11 o'clock or more at night before the sun goes down, and the sun comes up around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So as soon as the sun went down around midnight, plane came over and tried to stifle us. We had these balloons on a wire to keep them from coming too close to us, because if they hit one of those, well, they would do damage to themselves. But we watched when the rest of the airplanes came over to bomb the fleet. It was like a, well, you talk about going to see the fireworks. That was the biggest firework display I think I've seen in my life. There was traces and guns from 4,000 or 5,000 ships blasting up at all of these planes coming over. So that went on every hour or every half hour. They would come in for another run. So we didn't get much sleep, but we rested in between hits. And so the next morning, first thing we knew, the battleships opened up on the beach. So they were blasting, the battleships and the big ships, they were blasting these big guns. Their shells were going right over us. And you could hear them whistle as they went over us to hit the beach. So that was another exciting, well, it wasn't that exciting, but it was in a way, because I was glad when they took a break and rested. After 20 minutes or half an hour, they would take a break and slow down, then they would stop again in an hour later. So we did that every hour for about 3 or 4 hours that morning, and then we got orders at 11 o'clock to go into the beach again. So we got rid of all our pontoons and all the things that were tied up on the side of us, and we got ready we could try and get in again. So we got close to the beach, and it looked pretty rough. And our skipper was a pretty good, smart man. He had come up from the ranks, and he knew his stuff. I got to give him credit for a lot of things that we did. So anyway, instead of trying to get in to the worst part of it, somehow he veered right and started running along the coastline. So I noticed that we was running around the coastline, and then off and on he would try to get in, then back out again and go down some more. So I started thinking maybe our captain or skipper was chicken, you know. I thought we could get in and get this over with. So we did that 2 or 3 times, and then we came up with a river. And after we got by the river, we slowed down and went in again. Well, I didn't know why he went in, but this time I found out they opened up the bow, and they let one of our sailors dive in the water and swim to shore. Then he started walking down the coastline to see where a good spot would be for us to land. This is all the stuff that I found out after, when we got together in 1990 or something like that. We got together in Nashville about 20 years ago. coming down the coastline, looking for a place to get in. The skipper was keeping the communication with the sailor they let out on shore. Then we came to a place where it was a hill, and that's where we went. So that, I don't know, it was kind of a sheltered place to get in. So we went in, and we got a stern anchor that we drop so that we can pull ourselves off the beach after we unloaded our cargo. So we went in, and then the guy that was in the bow said there was mines ahead. So the captain or skipper held the ship back and pulled on the stern anchor at the same time to keep it from going through these barricades and obstacles that were in there. So we just stayed there until the tide went out. So you know, you go in when the high tide, and then when the tide goes out, you're standing there, or the ship is over there high and dry. So when the water receded, I looked out, and there's mines all over around us, on the right, and behind us, on the left, and everywhere. We're sitting in one little spot where there was no mine. Now, how did we guide that ship over there like that? Then we look in front of us, and there's 3 rows of obstacles. It's like jackstones with mines on each end of them, so that when you hit the ship, it just, blows up the... But the skipper wasn't too worried about them. He says those wouldn't make that much damage, But they had these big, all kinds of obstacles. 3 rows of them. So then the CBEs, which is another group, they started trying to pop off the mines with their rifles. Then they took chains and tied them to the obstacles, pulling them out. So they pulled out enough of those obstacles so they could make a path for us to get off. But before that, they had a mesh. It's like it's a steel mesh, and you just roll it, and you roll it down towards the ship, and it was about so that the trucks and the cannons we had on boards would sink in the sand, and they would be able to pull out without sinking in the mud. So anyway, we opened up our doors, the hatches, and lowered down the platform, and the soldiers got off onto the beach, and they made it okay. And we heard that within 3 hours they had stopped some tanks that were headed our way, and they had stopped them and salvaged the beach. So they were heroes. And while we was on the beach, I stupidly went out on the beach looking for shells, souvenirs. And I found a few, and then I started realizing, snipers couldn't take a pot shot at me. I better get back onto a ship. I did, and then comes 6, 7 o'clock, the water's coming back, and the Germans were getting the range on us, and they were starting to shoot shells, and they had to shoot them over the hill, and they were landing behind us. So the skipper was anxious to try and get us off the beach, so we had to wait for the water to rise. So around 8 o'clock, the water was fairly high, so he put the engines in reverse, and he put the power on the stern anchor to pull us off the beach, and pull back, and nothing would move. So we had to wait another 10, 15 minutes, and then we tried again. And almost 9 o'clock, we finally started pulling out and off. So I was hoping that when we pulled out, we wouldn't hit those mines that were behind us also. So we pulled off, got the anchor back on the ship, and we backed up and turned around and started out full blast, full speed ahead to join the fleet that was out 5 miles out. And on the way out, everybody was congratulating us for being the first LSD to land their cargo intact on the beach. So we got congratulations for that. And that was the first day experience all this cargo. But we was ahead of all everybody else. So instead of staying and waiting for another day or two for them to unload their cargo, and for us to go back to England to get another load, our skipper got on the and we headed back to England. So then we had to have radar and radio watch on our own, because we were on our own. So we was 4 hours on the radar, then 4 hours off, then 4 hours on radio, and then 4 hours off. So it was, we didn't have time to sleep for more than 3.5 hours at most. So we got back to England, got another load. Took us a day or two, we got loaded, then we headed back to France, and we brought our load into France, but it was altogether different beach on the second trip in. They had sunk a bunch of ships and barges to cut the undercurrent of the water so that we'd be able to land without too much difficulty. So we unloaded our, and we were still one trip ahead of everybody else. We headed back to England again afterwards for another load. So we got another load, and we was on our own, so we had radar and radio watch all at the same time. So on our third trip into France, we got halfway across the channel when we caught up with the fleet, or the part that the second load that was going in. So we was on our third trip in, and they were on their second, and we caught up with the second one. So we laid off the radar and the radio watch, because at 5 o'clock in the morning the sun was up and we had caught up with them. And we were relaxed. So I went to sleep in my bunk around 5:30, and I woke up around 20 minutes of 8, and I looked up, and the guys were having breakfast. That's in the crew's quarters, the back part of the ship. And I wasn't that hungry, and I figured I need to sleep more than I need breakfast, so I just went back to sleep. So I was just dozing off when I felt my bunk go up. I knew we were hit. So I grabbed my life belt and I squeezed it. It had the cylinders in there for air, and they blew up my life jacket, a life belt, so that if I didn't make it, well, at least I would float and they would get, I don't know, I just did it automatically. So then everything went dark, and I came off my bunk, and I felt the water and everything come in. And then that's all right.
questions at this time, Mr. Dean?
Okay, yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
That might help you, decision. Why don't we go to the slides?
Okay, great.
This is a side view of the ship, 133. I was on the, what they call the stern, which is the rear part of the ship. And on the other side of that one, I was on the bow, which is the right side over there. The right side in the Navy is called, wait so long.
Starboard? Starboard?
Yeah, starboard side.
Yep.
This is the starboard side of the 132. That's the bow doors that open, and then the ramp that comes down, and the cannons and the tanks roll off of that. This is one of those CBTs.
LCI or LCD?
LCTs, yeah. Yeah, it's smaller than an LCT. This is just a passenger. That's those are usually they use them from the transport. They come down these. They put out these ropes, and a whole bunch of ropes in it, like a bag. And it just the whole side of the ship is all of those. Yeah, that's the way. That's off one of those small boats, yeah. And they go as close as they can to the beach, and then they have to walk off of there. Sometimes they go up to their waist, sometimes up to their chin in water. This is our ship, the LST. That's when the bow doors are open and the ramp goes down, and they can drive off onto the beach.
Now that's a Sherman tank in there, Stu. So look at how big that boat is. That tank fits in there with a lot of ease and a lot of room to spare, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But compared to a lot of other ocean-going boats in the Navy, this was a relatively small ship.
Yeah. Okay, now this is the beach that we were trying to get onto. On the far right was the English and the Canadians. And on the far left, it was Utah Beach. That one wasn't quite so bad. But Omaha Beach was the worst one of all. That's the second one from the left. The gold, the Juno and the Sword weren't as bad as the Omaha. Omaha was the one with the cliffs, and where all the casualties are. A great percentage of the casualties happened. And I think what my skipper did is go from the Omaha to the edge of Utah, where we unloaded our cargo, and that's how we got onto the beach. Unless there's another river between that low part of between Utah and Omaha, that's where I think